So, welcome to today's webinar focusing on everything related to rechargeability. For some of you who might not know me, I'm Marielle and I'm the trainer for Sonic. And it's really my pleasure to run you through today's webinar. So, I know that probably most of you already know about rechargeable hearing aids. And if you've been fitting hearing aids for a longer time, you're also much used to non-rechargeable hearing aids using zinc air batteries, right? And since rechargeable hearing aids have been only around for a few years, they're relatively new. As a hearing care professional, it's actually important to know as much as you can about this kind of hearing aid. And most importantly, how to know to troubleshoot when there is a problem. Because at the end of the day, we just want clients who are happy, who are satisfied with our service, and most importantly, that they come back to us, because they're happy. So my hope is that you will know more about the hearing aids and also learn how to find out if there's the problem with the hearing aids and what to do about it. So there are currently 8 chargers in the Sonic portfolio, but the important thing to understand is that they actually fall into 2 different charging technologies. So on the left, you will see contact charging, and basically that is used for Sonic A1. This is where the hearing aids charging contacts make a direct physical contact with the metal springs in the chargers. So that is contact charging. And then you have inductive charging. Basically, they use this electromagnetic coil to transfer energy wirelessly between the charger and the hearing aid. So this technology is used with Radiant SE, Radiant, Cross, Z1, and Captivate. In terms of the models, you can see here that A1 uses the Charger and the Charger Plus for the Mini Rite style and also the Mini BTE R styles. And then when we look at Sonic Radiant SE, Radiant, and Z1, they have 4 chargers available, as you can see here. But if we have Sonic Cross, you can see that there's only 2 chargers available, which is a Charger Plus for the Mini Rite TR and also the desk charger for the Mini Rite TR. If you are selling Sonic Captivate, which is our oldest rechargeable hearing aid, the only charger compatible is the desk charger for the Mini Rite TR. So the reason why we actually decided to improve the rechargeability in Sonic A1 and change it from inductive to contact charging is to allow more consistent, reliable battery performance that would last the whole lifetime of the hearing aid. And I'll explain why we did this change, because with the previous generation rechargeable hearing aids, the battery capacity actually degrades and gets worse over time. So maybe after 2 or 3 years, your client might actually start hearing the low battery warning earlier and earlier in the day, and that is actually normal. With Sonic A1, rather than using 100% of the battery's initial capacity from day one, this new constant capacity charging technology actually saves and reserves around 20% of the battery's capacity. So as the battery ages and naturally loses the initial capacity, this extra 20% reserve is then slowly released to compensate for the lost capacity. So the result is that your client's hearing aid should last the whole day for at least 5 years. Now, these are actually some of the questions that I got from you guys regarding the challenges that you have had with the rechargeable hearing aids. The first question is, if my client asks, how long is the battery life? What should I say? So we have to be careful here, guys, because of course you can tell them that the battery should last for, it should last long enough for the whole day. Um, Try not to give a specific number of how long it should last. Maybe you can give a range, but just for your guys' information, it is actually around 20 hours. So it can be as long as 24 hours for those who have maybe mild hearing loss or they're not, they're not stressing the hearing aid too much. Or it can be as little as, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 hours if they're streaming the whole time. So a safe number to say is a range. If you can say, it could be between 16 to 24 hours, realistically around 20 hours if you're using, just a little bit of streaming for 20 minutes. Um, so it's really more or less, but I recommend that you don't need to tell them exactly the time. Otherwise, they will have expectations and then they will come to you and they will like, complain, why is it not like this? You told me that. So just tell them it's enough to last a whole day and then put it in the charger and continue to use it for the next day. So this graph actually tells the difference of contact charging really clearly. You can see here the dark blue line, and basically that shows what happens with traditional charging. So at first you have a very high battery life, but as you can see after the second year and then the third year, it quickly drops to the point where the battery might not last so long and you would need to change the battery. So the second part is the light blue line. So that shows A1's constant capacity charging approach. As you can see, the starting point is slightly lower. So that means the battery life is not super duper long, but you can see that the curve is much more steady over the years. So that means that the client can expect that the battery will last the whole day throughout the whole years, year one, two, three, four, five, without a sudden drop. So that means that you can expect the client will not keep on visiting you in the clinic complaining that the battery doesn't last anymore. So this is really the biggest difference with the new charging technology that we have. Before we introduced contact charging to the market, we made actually sure to do a lot of tests. So we used up more than 600 batteries. We tested them for millions of hours. We tested them in a warm, normal, cold temperature, very cold situation, and not just ideal lab conditions. So in that sense, you can be confident that A1 is tested and validated for 5 years of daily use. So the second question I got is, um, my client's rechargeable hearing aid doesn't last the whole day and it has only been a year. What's causing this and what should I tell them? It could be because of the hearing loss. So in this case, the degree and nature of hearing loss. Greater amplification, that means that they need more power. And also the speaker unit type. This is actually really interesting for some of you probably, but did you know that the speaker 85 uses the most amount of power because of the way it's designed, compared to speaker 60 or speaker 100? That's really interesting. Even I didn't know that, but R&D told me that 85 actually uses the most amount of power. And then what kind of, how does the client use the hearing aids? Of course, the noisier the environment, the more processing, the more streaming your client does, is the more power it uses up. So the noise management and the directionality are way more active and uses much more power. Of course, this is really important, guys, because for some of you, when you receive the rechargeable hearing aids from our factory, some of you actually keep it for 1, 2, 3 years without using it. And this is the worst thing that you can do because this will kill the battery. That means that, let's say you have the hearing aids, you received it in 2023, and then you just decided to sell the hearing aid now in 2026. That means that the battery might look good at first, but it will slowly drop. So this is not good. Don't sell old rechargeable hearing aids, especially when the battery is already expired. That's one of the biggest problem we have. And that might actually cause an issue with the hardware, with the actual battery. How do you store it in your stock before you sell it? You have to make sure that if you don't plan to sell it, then you have to activate battery protection mode. But I will talk more about that later on. Okay, so this is really important for you guys to know. Expected battery lifespans, because not all rechargeable hearing aids are designed the same. They don't have the same batteries, so we should know how they are different. This depends on the model and the battery inside. As you can see here for Captivate, Radiant, Radiant SE, Mini Ride TR specifically, they use this exact battery, and that is called 312 Plus Zenny Power Z22A lithium-ion battery. So it's designed to last approximately for 2 years before you need to replace the battery. This is optional, of course. If the client is not complaining that the battery life is dying early, then you don't need to. But yeah, it would be around 2 to 3 years where we do recommend that they replace the battery. And this can be done by you in the clinic, specifically for these models. The next one is the Radiant and Radiant SE Mini BTE TR models. So this is a bit different because, as you know, they use a bigger size battery, size 13 lithium-ion battery, and their lifespan is actually longer compared to the Mini Ride TR models. So it's around 3 to 5 years. The battery replacement is only possible in the lab, so unfortunately you cannot change it. But hopefully you don't need to because it should last longer. And then finally, for the A1 Mini Rite and Mini BTE-R models, it uses the size 13 lithium-ion battery, and it has been tested for 5 years thanks to its constant capacity charging technology. So again, the battery replacement is only possible in the lab, but we do expect you don't need to change it for the whole life of the hearing aid because it's so reliable. Next question, why can't I change the lithium-ion battery for the A1 Mini Rite and Mini BTE-R? The answer to that is really simple. We want to make a device which is still very small, if not even smaller than our previous products, and at the same time put a bigger size 13 battery in this small hearing aid. So size is one of the main reasons. The second reason is it has a more reliable and faster charging process. And the lithium-ion battery itself is better lasting. So it's protected, there's moisture protection, dirt protection, and it's also nano coated. So we do expect that there shouldn't be any issue for the whole 5 years if you get the A1 Mini Rite or Mini BTE-R. And when we do need to change the battery, you can see that in this sense, the battery is fully integrated and soldered directly into the whole hardware of the hearing aid, and it has protective nano coatings inside and outside to guard against moisture, sweat, corrosion, debris. And this integration is actually what makes the device way smaller and way more reliable, better quality, and better sealed. And since the battery is actually expected to last at least 5 years and is covered by the warranty of the hearing aid, you shouldn't need to replace anything. You shouldn't need to replace the battery at all. This is what we expect. So this shouldn't be your problem because we designed it to last in the first place. So the message I want to tell you guys is that not being able to change a battery isn't a limitation. It's really an intentional design choice. You get a more reliable, longer lasting battery with better moisture protection, so you don't need to replace it. For hearing aids with a non-replaceable rechargeable battery, you can actually check the battery health under End Session and then click on Batteries. Then you can see that if it's green, the battery is in good condition. And if it's gray, you would need to send it in for repair or service, especially if your client is not happy with the battery life. And for clients with Radiant SE, Radiant, Z1, Captivate, and Cross Mini Ride TR, you can replace the battery in the clinic. And for some of you, I know you guys love this practical advantage, but again, that's because the battery life is expected to be around 2 years. So that's why you need to replace it. So it's also good to tell your clients proactively that if they start hearing the low battery warning earlier and earlier in the day, earlier than usual, that is the first sign that the battery might need replacing. So make an appointment, regular checkup at least once a year so you can monitor the battery health of the hearing aids. And of course, once you need to replace the battery, you open the battery door by using this tool that you see on the right. And then after you do that, step 2 is to select which side that you change the battery. Click on that. Next step is to type in the serial number, which is really important because in case the hearing aid is not working or the battery is not working, we can track it, and it's important for warranty purposes. The last step is reset battery statistics. So they need to click this button called Reset Statistics in order to make sure that the battery level in the Remote Link 2 app is accurate. And it takes around 2 days before your client can expect that the battery level in the app is accurate. It really takes time with a new battery. And that is expected. Just tell your client that, yeah, the battery level might not be 100% accurate in the next day or so. After changing the battery, I would actually recommend that you charge the hearing aid to make sure that it lasts for the whole day. So if that is an option, even better. Next question. How does heavy streaming affect battery performance? And what should we tell the clients who love to stream all day? So as we know, heavy streaming is one of the biggest battery drains when it comes to hearing aids because the more you stream, of course, the faster the battery runs down. And this is actually normal and not a defect. It's simple physics. With all hearing aids, no matter what the brand, it's the same scenario when it comes to streaming. Since the digital sound processing already uses up a lot of power and it's on the whole time that the client is awake, 14 to 18 hours. I mean, if they wear an AirPods or an earbud, they use it maybe 1 hour, 2 hour, not the whole day, right? So in addition to this sound processing, clients who actually stream all day can expect shorter daily battery life, and they should plan accordingly for this. So they can check the app to check if the battery level is still good and if the battery is running very fast because they're streaming for hours and hours. Then they can also maybe have a charger plus with them so they can top up the power if needed. It is very important to tell your client so they can adjust their expectations and they don't come back to you complaining, why is the battery life so short? You should always tell them that if they're streaming maybe more than 1 or 2 hours, then they can expect it would definitely be shorter than usual. Next question, my client asks, how do I know if my hearing aids are charging properly? So, answer is simple. Sometimes the simplest answer is usually the best answer, guys, as you guys know. Make sure the hearing aids are placed correctly. And the lights, the LED lights on the hearing aid should actually be on. Of course, it can be orange, it can be green, doesn't matter. There should be a light. If not, if there's no light on the hearing aid, make sure the charger is always plugged in and receiving power. Because, yeah, if the charger doesn't have power, the hearing aids go to sleep mode. And if the hearing aid goes to sleep mode, then it's not charging, obviously. You can also check the charging ports for any dirt or foreign objects. Really, really obvious suggestion, but you'd be surprised how many clients have dirt inside the chargers. That's why it's not charging properly. And this is also a very important point. Show your client how to charge. Before they leave your clinic, show them, ask them to do it themselves to see if they're doing it correctly. And you guys need to practice, because if you just assume that they will use everything correctly or that they read the IFU, you are wrong. Not everyone reads the IFU. So it's really important before your client leaves the clinic, after they buy the hearing aids, you should try to do a demonstration and to practice with them so they know how to put the hearing aids properly to make sure they're charging. And as mentioned previously, the LED indicator lights that you see in the charger, here at the bottom for the older chargers and at the back for the newer desk chargers, this is to make sure that the chargers are powered. And for the desktop chargers, you would see the green light. Of course, that means that it's able to power the hearing aids. Remember, guys, that the charger plus battery can stay healthy for approximately 1 year without charging, assuming that, of course, it's 100%. If the power bank inside the charger plus is not charged properly, it would actually need to be replaced. The whole thing needs to be replaced. So be careful. If they need to, they should put the reminder from their phone or their calendar so that they should charge it regularly. Next question is, how do I know if the problem is the rechargeable hearing aid or the charger? Now let's go through the steps to help you figure out if the problem is either of these. First thing you should do is remind your client to bring their own charger so that you can see if it's working. When troubleshooting rechargeable hearing aids, it's always helpful to have your own charger in the clinic so you can test their hearing aids. And if the hearing aids are able to charge with the clinic charger, then that means that the problem is their charger or their electrical outlet. There's a problem with the power. And I know that, again, the simplest solutions are often the best. Most of the time, you would be so surprised because most of the problems are caused by dirty hearing aids. So it follows that you should start by cleaning and checking the hearing aids if they are actually working. Start by inspecting the devices visually. Do the hearing aids look damaged in any way? Check for visible debris. And if your client is actually using a rechargeable mini right, is the speaker working? Is it damaged? I had one case where the speaker of the client, the actual speaker was hanging by a wire. It was almost separate, but it was just hanging there. And my client had no idea. So after replacing the speaker, all was good again. So this is really obvious, but it's always good practice to start by just checking the hearing aid. And then the next one is wax protection. So the majority of you guys probably have that client who complained, oh, my hearing aid is now softer all of a sudden. And then usually the problem is the ear wax. You just need to change a wax filter. So that's the same with the ear mold. Sometimes that's blocked with earwax, and that could also be the problem. Next, check the microphone. So this is something which is not more common, And honestly, even I don't change the microphone filter that much, but it's important that it's clean. Sometimes it does get dirty, and the problem it will be that sound will not go inside if the microphone is dirty. So make sure that the microphone inlets are clean, and the instructions are actually in the IFU. They can use a brush to clean the microphone port to make sure there's no dirt blocking the microphone. And lastly, but most importantly, are the battery contacts. So if the hearing aid runs out of power very fast, it is not always because it needs a new battery. All you need to do is to check the battery contacts on the hearing aids. Maybe it's actually dirty. Maybe because of the sweat, it has dried on the battery contacts and you need to wipe it. So try to do that. It's a really good start to do these basic things. So the next step in our troubleshooting procedure is to check if the problem is your client's hearing aid or the rechargeable battery in the hearing aid. I've already talked about the first step, which is to check and clean the hearing aid. And after doing that, then you can try charging the hearing aid in the clinic charger. Once the hearing aids have charged for around 15 minutes, you can check the health of the hearing aid battery in the fitting software. So based on this information, you can see if the battery is the issue. If it is, then you can replace the battery yourself if it's the older Mini-Rite TR model, or you can send it in to the lab for servicing if it's not possible to change the battery. And if there's nothing wrong with the hearing aid, of course, then it might be the charger. So the first step you should do is you take the client's charger and check if the LED lights are actually switched on when you plug it in. So if it does not switch on, then try to change the USB-C charging cable or the adapter plug if that's possible. And you can also try another wall outlet. Maybe it's that. If the charger light is not switching on, then it will need to be sent back for repair. So if the charger is actually switching on, you can see the light. The next step is to inspect the charger for any damage and to clean the charger, including the charging ports. So those are the two holes inside the charger. And once they are cleaned, try to charge your client's hearing aids and also your own clinic hearing aid. And do this for a few minutes. So you can also use the Remote Link 2 app afterwards or the software to check the difference in the battery percentage level to confirm that the charger is actually charging the hearing aids. And if the hearing aids are not charging, then this is a time that you really need to send in the charger back for repair. Next question, there's an orange LED blinking on the hearing aid or on the charger plus. What does it mean? These are the two blinking patterns, orange blinking patterns that are important for you to know because that means there's actually something wrong with the hearing aid. So the first one is if the hearing aid show 4 long orange blinks repeated 4 times, so 16 long orange blinks, then that means that you need to clean the microphone. Yeah, so try to use a brush, clean the microphone really nicely with the cleaning tool. But if the blinks persist, send it for servicing. Then only the technician can clean it properly. Probably it's too dirty and it has gotten inside the dirt. Of course, the client will also hear something. So they will probably tell you that they hear 8 beeps repeated 4 times. So that's a lot of beeps. And when they hear that, then you might know, oh, maybe we actually need to have the microphones cleaned. So that's the first blinking pattern. The second one is when you see 3 long orange blinks and it doesn't stop, it's always blinking this orange blink when you place it in the charger. that means that there's a system error and the hearing aids need to be replaced. So this is really bad. If you see the hearing aids in the charger blinking, the 3 long orange blinks, there's something wrong and it needs to be changed. When it comes to the Charger Plus, there are 2 LED patterns that are good to know. So when you see 3 orange blinking, they need to be sent in for repair because that suggests a system error. And then when you see that the 2 outer LEDs are blinking, as you can see on this picture, that means that the hearing aid or the charger's temperature is too hot or too cold, and it has stopped charging to protect the battery. So what you need to do in case that you see these 2 blinking orange lights is to move the charger to a location with the temperature between 5 to 40 degrees. So room temperature is ideal. Next question. My client says the hearing aids sometimes don't start when they take them out of the charger. So what has happened? And the 2 simple usual causes is that the charger is unplugged while the hearing aids are still inside the charger. So that means that the hearing aids go into sleep mode and there's no sound coming out. And the second reason is that the hearing aids were not correctly placed in the charger. So what you can tell to your client is to always, always, always keep the charger connected to power at all times while the hearing aids are inside. This applies for the Charger Plus or the desk charger. And then in case the hearing aids go to sleep mode, maybe for some of them it's a routine, it's a habit. When they finish charging their phones, they unplug the power outlet. But for these hearing aid chargers, remind them, do not do that. Keep it plugged. And in case by accident it's unplugged, then they can still manually turn on the hearing aid by pressing on the lower push button. All right. Okay, so I've already mentioned that for these hearing aids at the bottom, so that includes Sonic A1, Radiant SE, Radiant Cross, also Z1, I forgot to add that here, but Z1, all of these hearing aids turns off and goes to sleep mode when the charger is not powered. So that is good because that means that the battery is not drained. But when you talk about the Captivate Mini Ride TR, there is no sleep mode. That means that if your client is charging the Captivate hearing aids and then they unplug the charger, then the Captivates will turn on and they will continue draining in the charger. So by the time in the morning when your client is ready to use them, then there will be no battery left. So that's a big difference. Always keep a charger plugged in. My client lives in a humid place. How can we avoid corrosion and damage to the hearing aid? So this is not going to be a very exciting answer, but this is going to help a lot. The first thing you should always do is to wipe and always tell the client is to wipe the hearing aids and the charging contacts with a dry cloth. Dry as much as possible. Only if it's really oily or it's really dirty can you choose an alcohol-free wipe. So remind your client that this is a really important, essential part of their everyday routine. They need to make this a habit. If they have not been doing this before with their other hearing aids, then this is a time to start this new habit. Especially if they live somewhere really hot, really warm. Maybe they have diabetes and they're always sweating because normally they sweat more, people with diabetes. So make sure that you observe the client and this would definitely help make the hearing aids last longer. Of course, it's also nice to have some help. So in case they have and they can buy, I would also recommend to get an electronic drying system for the hearing aids. So a hearing aid dryer. And of course, to keep the charger dry and clean, because if you don't keep the charger clean, especially the charging ports, then of course this will cause corrosion not only in the charger, but also in the hearing aid. And this is how I recommend that you clean the charger. So if the green, first thing you should do is unplug the charger, of course. And then for the older hearing aid, you cannot do that. So just unplug the power plug. And then wrap an alcohol-free cleaning wipe around a micro brush. And then it looks something like this at the end. After that, you can carefully wipe all sides of the charging ports with twisting motion, so like this maybe, or slow clockwise motion, but be careful. Make sure that all surfaces are wiped at least twice, and try not to use too much force to avoid damaging or distorting the gold springs. Make sure you don't use tools made of metal. This can easily also damage the contact strings. And you can see here that the person didn't clean it properly. So now the charging contacts will not be able to charge the hearing aids properly. So be careful when you're cleaning this part. And of course, clean the surfaces with a brush and wipe the charger clean. Allow to air dry for approximately 5 minutes. For the charger, you can use the more wipes, but for the hearing aids, try to use a dry cloth, okay? So what is the best method for drying rechargeable hearing aids to avoid corrosion, especially in warm or humid environments? So as I mentioned before, try to use a dry cloth as often as needed, at least once a day, maybe before they put it in the charger, they can wipe it so, the sweat doesn't dry in the hearing aid and in the charger. And then we can also recommend these two. So you have the Flow Med Dry Cap UV 4.0. They have older versions of this. That's also possible. Perfect Dry Lux. We also have a company called Redux. I think that's also possible, but we haven't tested it extensively. But as long as the temperature of these electronic dehumidifiers fall within the accepted range, it's in the IFU, then they can be used, okay? Next question is, how do we do the long-term storage if the hearing aids won't be used for a month or more? So this is my recommendations. If the client is not expecting to use the hearing aids for more than 2 to 4 weeks, ideally 2 weeks, yeah. What the client should do is to fully charge the hearing aid to 100%. After that, they should turn it off using the lower push button. And then you would see the orange LED to confirm that it's off. And then put it in the hearing aid case. Don't put it in the charger. And then just put a reminder in the phone that they should recharge the hearing aids at least twice a year. For the hearing care professional, that's for you guys. Fully charge the hearing aids to 100% and then connect it to the software and activate battery protection mode. Next question. Does newly delivered rechargeable hearing aids need to be charged right away? How long can they be stored in our warehouse without charging it? So this is actually what we recommend. So once you receive the rechargeable mini right device from our factory, the battery capacity will be between 10 to 30%. It depends on the transportation and storage time. For some of you guys, it will take way longer. For some of you, you will receive it in a week. So it really depends. And rechargeable styles are by default in battery protection mode when you receive them from us. So this ensures that there's still enough battery for a year of inactivity from the production date. And then the rechargeable hearing aids have usually a best before date printed on the packaging label 12 months after production. So make sure to check the label packaging and to make sure that the hearing aids which have an earlier expiration date, are actually fitted first. I've heard some customers who actually, or some of you guys who keep the hearing aids for years in your office before you sell it. So this is really bad. That means that the batteries will most likely be dead and you cannot sell them anymore to your clients. So that's why we recommend to manage your rechargeable hearing aid stocks very carefully. Look at the expiration dates of the hearing aids in the packaging and keep the stocks as low as possible, so they are not stuck there with you for a very long time. And then the batteries are already damaged when you sell them. And to keep the battery healthy, when you're not fitting the hearing aids yet, we recommend that you charge. So maybe someone in the office, maybe an assistant, can maybe charge the hearing aids fully the moment you receive them from us. And then after that, once they are charged 100%, then you connect them to the software, you activate the battery protection mode, and then you return the device in the package. So you don't have to activate the battery protection mode all the time, but if the mini right will not be used for 1 month, it is recommended to put the hearing aids into battery protection mode to make sure that you protect the battery. And it's really hard to keep track, so it's better to just do it for all hearing aids if you want to do best practices. And then if the fully charged hearing aids will be stored more than 6 months, make sure to recharge after 6 months to make sure that the battery doesn't die. And that's the same thing for the Charger Plus. The more, the better. You want to be safe, so that will be good. And always put a reminder in your office somewhere because it's so easy to forget. Before you know it, you have all of these rechargeable hearing aids with expired batteries, so you don't want that. So it's good to have a system in your office to look at these. And you can activate the battery protection mode for A1, Radiant SE, and Radiant. And also, I believe Z1 rechargeable devices. Okay, so these are the 4 models that you can do that. For the Viron, that is not possible. For the Captivate hearing aid, that is not possible. So this is good practice before shipping it for repair, or when you expect not to use the hearing aids for a long time, then this is how you activate the battery protection mode. So the first one is to connect the hearing aids to the software using NoaLink Wireless, and then go to Tools, click on Set to Battery Protection Mode, and then once you see this pop-up window, just click on Save. And then after that, the hearing aids will automatically be disconnected from Oasis Next, and they're ready for shipment. And to wake the hearing aids up from the battery protection mode, it's really simple. Just insert the hearing aids into the charger, wait until the LED lights turn on. That means that they're awake. And then if you want to use it, just remove the hearing aids and then start fitting it. So it's really that simple. Next question. What are the important things I have to remind my client who buys rechargeable hearing aids? So you guys probably are already doing this, but just to make sure, when instructing your client about charging their hearing aids, it is important that you instruct them carefully because, again, these are more things to take note of compared to non-rechargeable hearing aids. So the first thing is always make sure to charge the hearing aids every night, okay? And then make sure they're properly placed, as I mentioned before. And then the hearing aids automatically turn on when they take out the hearing aid. Also make sure that your client is aware of what the LED colors mean. Green LED means that it's 100% charged. Orange LED means they're not fully charged. And then the charger, you can also remind them that the charger is a good place to put the hearing aids when they're not using it, for a short time, of course. And you should always tell the client, make sure the chargers are connected to a power source. Otherwise, they go to sleep mode and then they turn off. And then when you try to put them on, there's no sound. Then that means they have to press the push button to manually turn it on. And then last thing is to make sure that they can use a Charger Plus for on-the-go charging. Or if they're a heavy streamer, they're streaming a lot of videos, podcasts, they're always on calls, they can use a Charger Plus to also add and charge the battery when he's outside. And when it comes to the desk charger, these are the tips. So ensure that the charger ports are clean and dry before use by using a cloth or a wipe. Do not use cotton buds, okay? Do not use water or cleaning fluids to clean the charging ports. It's very sensitive. Keep it as dry as possible. And then for optimal charging, remember that these are the temperatures ideally, okay? Because lithium-ion batteries are very sensitive to temperature. So don't store the charger and the hearing aids in very cold or very warm locations, such as the windows, close to sunlight, inside the car, during summer. Everywhere else is hot if you're not careful. So be aware of this. 15 to 35 is the ideal range for Sonic A1, but for the hearing aids which uses inductive charging, it's between 10 to 35. That's the ideal conditions for the older inductive charging hearing aids. And then, of course, keep the desk charger plugged in. When using the Charger Plus, keep the lid closed. Someone asked me, can I use the Charger Plus and keep the lid open? That means that the chargers will not work the way it was designed to. So always keep the lid closed when charging with the Charger Plus. And as you already know, the charging can be done from a laptop, car, or power bank as long as it's compliant with the requirements. Someone asked me, can I use the phone charger cable or the phone power outlet? I do not recommend this. It could work, but we don't know the long-term effects because the chargers and the hearing aids were tested with our cables, with our power plugs, and this we can guarantee. But with other power plugs, we don't know all the details. We don't know the quality of their charging cables. So I recommend just use what comes with the charger. And then finally, these are the tips for the Charger Plus. When using it for the first time, before they use it, fully charge it to make sure that they can still recharge it later on. Before storing the Charger Plus, if they're not planning to use it for a long time, make sure to charge it to 100% and to charge it at least once every year. And we're almost at the end, guys. So this is also one thing which is probably good for you to know. Your clients with rechargeable sonic hearing aids can check the power level, as you can see here, for their hearing aids. So this is for Remote Link 2. And if you guys haven't received the newsletter that I sent, probably you already know, but the older Sonic SoundLink 3 app is not available and it cannot be used anymore. So make sure that you familiarize yourself with the newer Remote Link 2 app and that your customers know how to download and to use them. If they are using Sonic A1 or Radiant SE or Radiant, there will be an extra option here, which is the time remaining. So it's only for the devices which have the newest firmware. Remember, only the 3 families will have this time remaining option. And it is helpful for your clients to see how long their hearing aids will last with typical use. So they can decide, should I bring my Charger Plus? Should I be careful about maybe streaming a bit less? Then this is a really good tool. And on the right side, you will see the battery notification settings. So they can be notified if the battery is 50%, 30, 20% left, or if they have 2 hours more to use it. So if they want to be reminded every step of the way, they can turn that on in the app. And when it comes to the chargers, they can also see this banner here. So if it's charging, you will see in the app that the hearing aids are charging with the battery icon. And then if they're fully charged in the app, it would also tell you that it's fully charged. And as soon as they're placed in the charger, you will also see in the sound tab that, so the purple color is basically saying that the hearing aids are charging. And when it's 100%, it's green. So it's really that simple. And while it's charging, for obvious reasons, the hearing aids are muted. There's no audio streaming possible. And you cannot change the volume, you cannot change the programs or the sound equalizer. That's all not available because the hearing aids are in the charger, right, guys? So here are the resources you might want to use in your clinic, and I'll make sure to send this to you after the webinar. So make sure that you register for each webinar because that's where I get your emails. And when you type in your email, make sure it's the correct email, because if it's a wrong email that you typed, then you will not receive the handouts or the link to watch the webinar. So this is the guide for the Sonic A1. You can give this to your client. You can print it out and then you can give him. So it would give him an idea what to expect, what are the different kinds of lights, and what do they mean, and how to take care of the hearing aid and the charger. And there's also a troubleshooting for the rechargeable hearing aid. So everything I told you today is organized step by step in this guide on how to troubleshoot the issues. And these are also, it's a flow chart to help starting right from here, which is to clean and check the hearing aid. So you can easily follow these steps if you want some more guidance. And I actually made this frequently asked questions. So this is, I don't know, man, like 10, 15 pages. So guys, I think you will be sick of all this information after you go through. But at the last page, you can also see how to change. These are the different steps on how to change the battery for the older Mini TR devices, and how to reset the battery statistics in the software. So all of these things you will receive. And yeah, I think that is all for today's session. So I hope you found the content practical and applicable in your clinic. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. I wish everyone a great day, and I look forward to seeing you all at our next webinar.